I was reborn on the day my husband came back with his first love. The two of them watched as I was driven out of the house by my mother-in-law. My sister-in-law even mocked me, saying that I was an old hen that couldn't lay eggs. I touched my belly. Inside me were the future top celebrity and the world's richest person. When I passed away peacefully at a ripe old age, surrounded by grandeur and with a large family of children and grandchildren. Before I died, I thought that, except for the imperfect marriage that led to a poor and down and out first half of my life, in the second half of my life, I had lived up to be an example for all women. The only regret was that I had never given a good lesson to that scumbag Leo who abandoned his wife and daughter. Unexpectedly, when I opened my eyes again, I saw Leo holding the hand of his first love and pushing a divorce agreement in front of me. He showed off beside me and said, "Molly gave birth to a pair of twin boys for me a few days ago." Molly squeezed his hand and looked at me with a provocative smile. This. Wasn't I dead? Why did this scene seem so familiar? Ignoring the extremely despicable expressions of this adulterous couple, I quickly picked up the iPhone in my hand. Sure enough, it was October 30th, 2011. In my previous life, it was on this day that Leo divorced me. I was unwilling, and my mother-in-law took a broom and desperately beat me, trying to drive me, the woman who, according to the Fordunch alert, couldn't give birth to a son and didn't have the appearance to bring good luck to her husband, out of the house. At that time, this strange family didn't know at all that I was already pregnant, and 9 months later, I would give birth to the future big celebrity and the world's richest person. Yo yo yo. My sister-in-law Sharon couldn't hold back anymore. Seeing that I didn't sign the agreement for a long time, she spoke in a sarcastic tone beside me. The person who can't give birth to a son is sad. She knows that she can't freeload anymore and will have to go to the streets to dig wild vegetables. Now she's pretending to be an idiot and not signing the agreement. When my mother-in-law heard this, she became anxious and immediately ran to the kitchen, preparing to get the broom and recreate the scene from my previous life. Seeing this, Leo put on a false show of kindness. Yuki, let's part on good terms. In this agreement, I've left you a house and 500 yuan in cash. It's enough for you to live a good life for the rest of your life. When he saw me looking up at him coldly, Leo sighed. To be honest, if Molly hadn't been forced by her family to get married back then, I wouldn't have married you on a whim out of anger. Over the years, you've been Mrs. Sharon long enough, and you should be content. Molly tugged at Leo's sleeve beside him. A house and 500 yuan? I automatically ignored the little gesture of his first love and glanced towards the kitchen. Sure enough, as soon as Leo finished speaking, the same scene as in my previous life reappeared. Leo's mother came out fiercely holding a broom and shouted aggressively. Why? Why give it to her? She's enjoyed enough blessings over the years and hasn't added a single descendant to our family. Why should we give it to her? Do we want her to subsidize other men in the future? In my previous life, I was beaten out of the house amidst their coordinated actions. I rolled down the steps and almost had a miscarriage. After I was admitted to the hospital, Leo not only didn't come to see me, but he also didn't care about the reason for my hospitalization. He just kept sending text messages urging me to get a divorce so that he could legitimately register the household registration for his 2 newborn sons. Fortunately, hadn't fulfilled Lee. Later I gave up on him completely. After the divorce, I wholeheartedly raised my born children. My son's name is Jason, and my daughter's name is Ava. At that time, that was all I wanted. I just wanted my children to grow up healthily and peacefully. Even I didn't expect that. Because of a series of Leo's later stupid actions, he actually forced the brother and sister to become world-renowned figures. However, at this moment, I didn't think about it too much. Instead, I picked up the divorce agreement in front of me, coldly swept over the hands of this adulterous couple that were tightly held together, as well as the arrogant and show-off faces of my evil mother-in-law and sister-in-law, the mother-daughter pair. I picked up the pen beside me and slowly added an additional agreement. Attachment clause: Yuki is willing to leave the marriage without taking any property. On the condition that Leo gives up the custody rights, and shall not harass or compete for the children born during the period of his marriage with Yuki for any reason. Leo frowned and was just about to speak. Molly beside him tugged at his hand again. And his mother beside him even showed a sneering expression. Sharon was even more disdainful and said, "Children? As if you can give birth. Now that you're about to get divorced. Where are these children from?" Seeing Leo nod, I couldn't help but feel a sense of mockery. Leo at this moment never thought that the children he and Molly gave birth to were not his at all. Later, I didn't know how Leo found out. Anyway, heading fulfilled my obsession. After he found out, he brought his mother and sister to my door every day to snatch my son and daughter. We didn't know how many times we moved, and they still pestered us like maggots attached to bones. Finally, having fulfilled my, after winning the lawsuit, I found that I seemed to have aged more than 10 years. The lot of my hair turned white. Jason and Ava, this pair of siblings, were also delayed in their studies because of this. Fortunately, having fulfilled my obsession, later they were ambitious enough to pull their grades back up. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had a happy second half of my life. Okay. I've signed my name. Since Leo had nodded and agreed to my last request, I didn't hesitate anymore and directly signed my name on the divorce agreement. My mother-in-law. No, my ex-mother-in-law quickly snatched the agreement. Looking at the words I wrote that I voluntarily left the marriage without taking any property. She couldn't close her mouth from smiling. But she never thought that. As soon as Leo signed the word, I directly walked out. When I opened the door and went down the steps, I used all my strength to sit on the ground and burst into loud sobs. "Neighbors, come out and take a look. The Leo family is going to marry a mistress and doesn't want me, his wife. Not only that, the Leo family also forced me to sign an agreement to leave the marriage without taking any property. They want to drive me out and wipe me out completely," I shouted with all my might over there. Because in my previous life, I heard that after the divorce, in order to let Molly enter the family smoothly, the Leo family spread rumors and slandered me outside, saying that I was having an affair with someone else, and that I had found someone richer and abandoned Leo. In this life, I don't want to bear such a stigma again. My shouting directly brought out all the neighbors in the villa area who were at home, especially those old men and women who had nothing to do on weekdays and only knew how to eat sunflower seeds and chat about gossip in the community. Damn it. The Leo family treats me like this just for a mistress. Leo, do you have a conscience? You came from the countryside. Who was it that sold the house my father left me to you for starting a business in the first place? Who was it that once promised to bring your mother and sister to the city to enjoy a good life? Leo, you heartless person. You're not only heartless, but you're also not a human being. You had an affair behind my back, and you even have children. Although it was a bit embarrassing to cry like this, when I thought that if I didn't do this, I would be letting this adulterer scupple off easily. Why should they be able to enjoy the wealth obtained with my help, while I have to go through more than 20 years of hardship, doing odd jobs every day, raising my children, and being harassed by this adulterous scupple of Leo from time to time? Before he found out that his 2 sons were not his biological children, under Molly's instigation, he bullied my future big celebrity daughter and richest son again and again. Thinking of this, I originally wanted to make a big scene, but while crying and shouting, I actually felt more and more aggrieved. Someone around also called the police. When the police came, Leo's mother was holding the agreement I signed and shouting. She voluntarily left the marriage without taking any property. We didn't force her. Besides, she's been with my son for 5 years and hasn't given birth to a single child. She just does nothing at home every day, eating and waiting to die. And she doesn't even serve me. Her mother-in-law. Neighbors, judge for us. For a woman like this who can't carry on the family line of the Leo family. If we don't divorce her, do we want the Leo family to be without descendants? As she spoke, she actually pinched the broom and sat on the ground imitating me, throwing a tantrum. This won't do. After all, I'm the mother of the future best actress and best singer. How can I be inferior to her? Seeing the police coming, I immediately shouted, "Neighbors, judge for us. I just want a house to live in." But the Leo family wants to hit me with a broom. They said that if I dared to ask for it, they'll beat me to death. I pointed at the broom that the old woman was still holding tightly in her hand, crying bitterly. Seeing that the police were approaching, I quickly got up and rushed in front of the policeman uncle, shouting, "Uncle policeman, save me. They want to beat me to death. They want to beat me to death just to marry a mistress." Although I was already an old woman in her 80s, it was a bit strange to call to policemen in their 20s uncle policeman. But judging from my appearance, I, who was 26 years old now, was a young and beautiful girl. TSK. Finally, headings fulfilled my inside. I, Leo's family, and that mistress were all taken to the police station together. His family made a fuss inside for a long time. I also continued to act out the crying scene for a long time. Finally, having fulfilled my under mediation, Leo agreed to hand over the property that I was entitled to according to the law. And a new agreement was drawn up on the spot. This was my goal. Besides venting my anger for the future development of my children, I really don't want to experience the life of digging wild vegetables, doing odd jobs, and raising children again. Come to think of it, whether Leo was successful or my son became extremely successful in the future, it was all inseparable from the women behind them. That was me. Especially my smart brain and my photographic memory. I clearly remembered all the investment opportunities after 2011. In my previous life, I didn't have enough capital, and with Leo's harassment, I had to give up on those opportunities one by one and didn't dare to take even the slightest risk to try. In this life, I have the memories of my previous life. Not to mention anything else. I won't let even the slightest risk appear. After leaving the police station, I held the agreement and was extremely happy. I felt that a beautiful new life was waving at me frantically. In the next few days, after quickly getting the divorce certificate, I didn't move into the house that Leo gave me according to the agreement. Instead, I rented an apartment. Because I knew that even with the agreement, the Leo family was still reluctant. His mother and Sharon, this extremely strange mother-daughter pair, would still come to make trouble. I didn't want to be almost miscarried again like in my previous life just because I was newly pregnant and harassed by them. This was a result that I couldn't bear. It would also be a great loss to the more colorful future world. However, I couldn't let this family off easily and make them think that I didn't dare to claim what was mine. So I specifically found a famous law firm and used 50 of the property as a reward to invite them to deal with Leo's family and the subsequent troubles for me. 50 was an unimaginable reward for an ordinary person. But for me, the mother of the future richest person who knew exactly where the future trends were, it was just a number that I could earn back with just a little effort. Of course, I didn't know that the previous events had been changed by me. I didn't know if Jason and Ada could still achieve the same success and glory as in my previous life. However, for a mother, even if my children in this life couldn't be the same as in my previous life, I would still be happy. Anyway, what about the money? Their mother can also make money. So amazing. However, no matter how much I calculated, I still underestimated the shamelessness of Leo's family. Half a month after I moved into the rental apartment, Leo still found me through his connections. When the knock on the door sounded, I thought it was the takeout, but the moment I opened the door, I saw Leo standing outside with his mother and a person who clearly looked like a lawyer. "Yuki, what do you mean? You think you can just hide here, right? You want to divide my son's family property? You're daydreaming." Leo's mother, Sophia, rushed in first and pointed at my nose while scolding me. At the same time, she called out to her son, "Leo, search quickly. She rented a place so far away. She must be hiding some lover here." Unexpectedly, Leo really started looking around. Seeing this, I directly shouted, "What do you want to do? This is breaking into a private residence. I'm calling the police." "Call the police? You rented this place with my son's money, so it belongs to my son," Sophia continued to shout. I looked at the lawyer and said, "You're just going to let this crazy woman make a scene?" Unexpectedly, the lawyer pushed his gold-rimmed glasses and said, "I'm just protecting the legitimate rights and interests of my client. Great. They were here to catch me in the act of adultery. It was convenient for them to fight the lawsuit in court. What? I stopped Leo and directly questioned him. You're the one who committed adultery during the marriage. How dare you accuse others of the same thing? Leo just paused for a moment. He didn't even turn his head and said, I'll only leave my money to my son. Yuki, alalo sorry. Don't be delusional. Suddenly, I remembered the past life. After I gave birth to the child, Leo still found out the news. He and his mother burst into the hospital without saying a word and wanted to take Jason away. As for Ava, Sophia clicked her tongue in disgust and said, a girl who brings bad luck. There's nothing good about her. If it hadn't been for the help of the doctors and nurses at that time, I'm afraid Jason would have been taken away by Leo that day. But what was even more infuriating was that when they didn't succeed, Sophia and Sharon started spreading the word all over the world that I had an affair outside and had a child. They put all of Leo's mistakes on me. Adultery and having a child during the marriage. The rumor was still spreading even after Jason and Ava started going to school. I still clearly remember once. Jason came back looking all embarrassed. With a crying Ava. He was furious. I asked what had happened. It turned out that the children at school had mocked his sister as a bastard. And he had fought with them out of anger. And the origin of the rumor was Leo's other 2 sons. At that time, I was so angry that I went to their place to ask for an explanation. But Sophia beat me out severely and stood there with her hands on her hips, cursing at me with all kinds of ugly words. You bitch. You have the guts to have an affair but no guts to admit it. Now you're here begging from our Leo family. Don't you know your place? What Leo family offspring? Our Leo family only has 2 grandsons. Why didn't you have a child when you got married? Why did you suddenly have one after the divorce? Look, this bastard can't find his father. So she's here to blackmail us. Those words and scenes still made me feel indignant even at the moment of my death. In the second half of my life, I thought about taking revenge. Unfortunately, heading for Filtley. By then, the Leo family had already fallen apart. With the family broken and the wife and children separated, it seemed like retribution. But since I didn't give that retribution with my own hands, I was still unwilling. Finally, heading for Filtley, Leo finished searching my small apartment. He didn't even miss the wardrobe and other places. Looking at the messy house, I looked at Leo coldly and said, Is that enough? Are you satisfied? Leo's face turned a bit dark. Sophia started scolding again. Just because we didn't find anything doesn't mean there's nothing. I'm staying here today and not leaving. Leo, handle it. Take out the new agreement. As Leo took out an agreement from his pocket, Sophia sat on the sofa, still cursing. Sign it whenever you want. And I'll leave then. It's not just me, but also Lawyer Lee. We'll just stay here and waste time with you. The lawyer sneered, as if he was sure of me. Seeing this, Huntington felt like sigh. I didn't argue. After all, they outnumbered me. I directly took out my phone and was about to call the police. Unexpectedly, Huntington felt my adsusher. Sophia directly stood up and slapped my phone out of my hand. She shouted, Call the police? What the hell are you calling the police for? What have you done for our Leo family all these years? You ate and lived in our house. And now you want to take half of our family property. This is fraud. As she was speaking, suddenly, a voice came from outside. According to the provisions of the criminal law, breaking into a private residence can. I looked over and saw that it was one of the policemen who had come to the scene the other day. But now he had already taken off his police uniform. Dressed in casual clothes. He had a strong and upright figure with sword-shaped eyebrows and bright eyes. In his hand, he was also holding a little boy wearing a blue Snoopy patterned clothes. The boy was cute and pink, probably around 5 or 6 years old. With curious eyes, he blinked and looked inside. When I moved in, the real estate agent had said that this place was very safe, and there was a policeman uncle living upstairs who had a child. It was said that his spouse had sacrificed herself while catching a criminal a few years ago. I never expected it to be him. Sophia and Leo also clearly recognized the other person. An old woman from the countryside. Even though she had lived in the city for a few years, still had a fear of the police. even though the policeman was in casual clothes now. Leo. Mom suddenly has a stomachache. Why don't we go back first? I never expected this farce to end in such a way. Watching Leo and the other to leave, I let out a long sigh of relief and couldn't help looking at the policeman uncle who had been standing at the door holding the little boy. Thank you so much. I stepped forward and gave a deep bow of 90 degrees. Just as I met the gaze of the little boy in his hand. His eyes were dark, bright, big and round, and he was incredibly cute. In an instant, my heart melted. Yuki, aren't you tired doing this? A clear and slightly hoarse voice came to my ears. I quickly raised my head and smiled foolishly. Sure enough, when there was a people's police officer around, the sense of security increased greatly. Thinking of this, I quickly invited the other person to come in and sit for a while. After all, we were neighbors living upstairs and downstairs. And this would be the case until I won my lawsuit. At this moment, thinking that his mother had already sacrificed, while my heart melted again because of the cute child, I also felt a bit sorry for him. Such a cute child. His mother must have been very beautiful. Right? You can come and play with Auntie when you have time. I subconsciously waved at the little boy. The little boy nodded heavily. And then I saw them disappear around the corner of the stairs. Only hearing that slightly hoarse voice. Be good. If someone greets you next time, you should say thank you. I heard a soft murmur. Before closing the door, I noticed the elevator next to me. Thinking that if they had just come back, it was impossible for them to stop on my floor. It was probably the commotion caused by Leo and the others that made this policeman come down to check on purpose. Thinking of this, I couldn't help laughing again. Probably because I felt more secure. I was in a good mood all day. While touching my belly and thinking about the twins inside, I started looking up the stock market on the internet. I began to look at those stocks. Finally, having fulfilled my upside, I found a few that I remembered would rise sharply. To avoid the butterfly effect, I still carefully selected 3 stocks and invested 2/3 of my money in them. This way, even if something unexpected happened, surely not all 3 stocks would have problems. After buying the stocks, I called my entrusted law firm. I told them about what happened with Leo today and asked them to make sure this kind of thing didn't happen again. Otherwise, I would change to another law firm immediately. How could they let the defendant find the plaintiff's home and cause trouble? After dealing with all these things, I started lying down, cooking and watching dramas. Probably because I knew there was a policeman living upstairs, I slept really soundly that night. It wasn't until noon the next day that my door was knocked on. Leo, are you annoying or not? I thought Leo and the others had come again, but when I opened the door, I saw a face with deep and distinct features. And the small figure that only reached his waist under his tall and upright body. It was the policeman father and son living upstairs. Seeing him looking at me in surprise, I quickly apologized guiltily. I'm sorry, officer. I thought it was my ex-husband. A few minutes later, I learned the reason why they came to me. He first introduced himself as Ryan, and the little boy was named Sonny, with the nickname Sonny. Ryan scratched his head and said a bit sheepishly, "There's an important matter in the team. My colleague was supposed to take care of him, but she also has a case today. So, okay. Leave it to me." I immediately understood, but when I was about to hold the little boy's hand, I found that he timidly hid behind his father. He has a bit of autism. Because of what happened to his mother. For Sonny, heading fulfilled my obsession. Be good. Waiting for Dad to come back at Auntie's house. Okay? Ryan patiently squatted down and spoke softly. Finally, hadn't fulfilled Ryan's sigh. The little boy nodded timidly. This scene made me unconsciously touch my belly. In my past life, I was also worried about the mental health of my 2 children. I was afraid that Leo's repeated disruptions would be bad for the children's growth. Eventually, having fulfilled my sorry, it might lead to situations like autism. So I learned a lot of experience in taking care of children in this regard. When Ryan left, I saw gratitude in the eyes of his young father. After saying goodbye to Ryan and closing the door, I took Sunny to the refrigerator and was about to ask him what he wanted to eat. But he looked at my belly and surprisingly said, "Auntie, do you have a little baby?" This really surprised me because until now, besides myself, no one had found out that I was pregnant. Even when I went to the police station, I didn't mention this. In this life, I just want to get what I deserve and use what I know to prepare the best life for my children in advance. Of course, I also want to stay far away from the Leo family. So I didn't want Leo to know that I was pregnant. Sunny didn't say anything. He just nibbled on his fingers and blinked his eyes as he looked at my belly. This inevitably made me think of the autism that Ryan had mentioned. Yes, why down a low sorry. Auntie is pregnant. There's a little brother and a little sister in there. How about being friends with you in the future? I didn't pay much attention either. I just ruffled his hair and smiled as I talked to myself a few words. I noticed a glimmer in his eyes. But it disappeared in an instant. After getting the milk and fruits, I led him to the sofa, asked him to sit on it, and turned on the TV for him to watch. Agreeing to take care of Ryan's son wasn't because I had feelings for this young police officer. Admittedly, he was quite handsome, but I didn't want to get married again in this life. I just wanted to put all my remaining energy into the education of my children. In my previous life, although my son and daughter were both very successful, I had always been regretful that I didn't give the brother and sister a good childhood. So in this life, I want to create the best environment first to make up for the regrets of my previous life. And agreeing to take care of Ryan's son, on the one hand, was to thank Ryan for his help. More importantly, I had an inexplicable feeling of pity and affection for this little boy whose nickname was Sunny. Looking at his big blinking eyes, I thought of my daughter. In my previous life, her eyes were rated as one of the most spiritual eyes in the world. What if I raise him as a future son-in-law? I sat on the sofa with my computer, looking at Sunny, and suddenly such a strange idea popped into my mind. My daughter was successful in every way and extremely beautiful, but in terms of marriage, just like me, she was a complete failure. Theft. I couldn't help but laugh. I wondered if Ryan would feel like he was sending a sheep into the tiger's mouth if he knew about this. No, I couldn't keep thinking about it. I don't know why, but the more I looked at Sunny, the more I liked him. In order to suppress this futile thought of arranged marriage, I quickly opened my computer and brought up the stock market. Although I had already mentally prepared myself, however, when I opened it, I was still stunned by myself. The 3 stocks I bought actually all went up. Moreover, a stock named Zenhulian even had an increase of 70%. In my memory, in 2011, this stock had a maximum increase of 799.18, creating a myth of a black-bone chicken turning into a phoenix. But because this stock achieved such results only after a backdoor listing, many people still didn't dare to buy it at that time. They were afraid that once they bought it, the stock would return to its previous sluggish state. But I knew that the upward trend of this stock would last for at least half a year before it started to harvest the stockholders. However, I never expected that for the stock I just bought yesterday. When I opened it today, it had reached the daily limit up in just half a day compared to yesterday. Sure enough, the passive income was completely stable. As for the other 2 stocks I bought, one was Zenhulian and the other was Waxia Fortune. They were both still showing a good upward trend according to their original trajectories. I calculated that in just one day, the assets in my hand had nearly tripled. Sure enough, the fastest way to make money was to rely on the memories from my previous life after being reborn. At this moment, I thought that if I had more funds in my hand, I could leverage more quickly. With this in mind, I quickly called the law firm I had entrusted. I asked them how long it would take to obtain half of the Leo family's property for me. If I had this money yesterday, I might have been able to reach the threshold of 10 million yuan today. In less than a month, I could reach the threshold of 100 million yuan. And then according to... Hello? Is that Yuki? Before I could finish my dream of surpassing my son's wealth in my previous life, the phone was answered. Yes, Elif Q. It's me. I want to. However, before I could finish my words, I heard Sophia shouting on the other end of the phone. as well as the laughter of my entrusted lawyer. Yuki, what a coincidence. The defendant in your case is here. They had to make a scene here in our law firm. Do you want to come over and take a look? Ah? I immediately came to my senses. How could I miss such a good show? I quickly looked at Sunny, who was no longer watching TV and was still staring at my belly. Sunny, do you want to go and watch a wonderful show with Auntie? We can look at your future wife slowly when we come back, okay? 6. I took Sunny to the law firm. Before I even entered the door, I could already hear Sophia's hysterical shouting. You bunch of people who take dirty money are just bullying me. An old woman, aren't you? When I walked in, I saw Sophia sitting on the floor of the law firm, with her hair disheveled, and her whole body swaying wildly like a madman. Give the money back. That's all my son's money. That bitch Yuki must have given you money. That's all the money my son earned. The security guard next to her stepped forward to try to lift her up, but before he could touch her, Sophia leaned back and flopped on the ground. Someone's hitting me. Someone's hitting me. Is there no justice left? Everyone, come and take a look. Sharon, who was standing next to her, immediately picked up the conversation. If you dare to hit my mom, you'll have to pay for it in court. The entrusted lawyer smiled helplessly. Did you forget that this is a law firm? We are least short of lawsuits here. Sharon was obviously taken aback. However, Sophia was relentless. Don't try to control me with the law. If you dare to touch me today, you have to pay for it. Several lawyers looked at each other, all looking speechless. I guessed that they probably rarely encountered such unreasonable people who couldn't be reasoned with using the law at all. There was only one way to deal with such people, which was to throw a tantrum on the spot and shout loudly. While I was holding Sunny and watching the show, Sharon turned around and saw me standing at the door. I quickly shielded Sunny behind me. You bitch. You still dare to show up. Sharon immediately showed a venomous expression and walked towards me. It's all because of you. You took our family's money. Give it back. The security guards couldn't handle the shrew, but it was very easy for them to deal with Sharon. They quickly stopped her. Sharon flailed about, and her sharp nails scratched several security guards. One of the security guards was so angry that he kicked her in the back of the knee. With a thud, Sharon knelt in front of me. I quickly took a step back. There's no need to perform such a grand salute. Why don't you just die? You whore. Sharon was furious. Fortunately, hadn't fulfilled la obsession. This farce didn't last long, and the police arrived. They quickly arrested the two people present. And no matter how much Sophia threw a tantrum, it was useless. The lawyer next to them obviously didn't stay idle either. He told the police everything that had just happened. The two people were put into the police car while struggling, and they looked at me with venomous eyes before leaving. What a wonderful show. Yuki. The entrusted lawyer smiled at me. Your entrustment has been completed. The money will be transferred to your card within 3 working days. I nodded. Thank you for your trouble. You're welcome. The entrusted lawyer said. As for those two defendants just now, I'm afraid they won't be able to get out for at least half a month. I couldn't help but laugh. That's great. 7. I was lying in bed, taking care of my pregnancy and speculating in stocks. In just a week's time, all the stocks I bought soared. Money kept flowing in one after another, and I could be said to have made a fortune. During this period, Leo came to find me and made a big fuss, saying that I had harmed his mother, but he was driven out by Ryan. I really owed Ryan a lot for his help during this time. I looked at the calendar and felt that my plan could almost be put into action. So I made an appointment with the boss of Leo's rival company and put up 1 million yuan to leverage with him. And I told him about Leo selling counterfeit goods. What did the Leo family do to offend you that you're going after him like this? The boss of the rival company asked. I smiled softly. He's my ex-husband. Women are really scary. He couldn't understand what I had gone through. So naturally he couldn't understand, but as long as I achieved my goal, that was fine. Actually, it wasn't really me going after him. In my previous life, his company had already had problems because of counterfeiting. It was just that at that time, his rival company was too busy dealing with the financial situation to pay attention to him. That's why he managed to get through that crisis without much trouble. But this time, it wouldn't be the same. I specifically found the boss of this company just to take decisive action and crush Leo completely. He deserved it for his fraud and deception. A week later, the financial news exploded. A mysterious stock god used 1 million yuan in funds to shake the entire stock market. All the stocks I invested in rose sharply one after another. My cooperation with the company boss was successfully achieved. With my help, Leo's crisis came particularly quickly this time. First, the goods in his hand were sealed up, and his cash flow suddenly fell into a trough. Immediately after, the police launched an investigation. Once the fraud was exposed, all that awaited him was being acquired by others. While he was in a state of panic, I contacted the bank again. In desperation, Leo had to go to the bank to apply for a loan, hoping to get through this crisis in this way. However, the conclusion he got was only one. Sorry, we can't give you a loan. Leo seemed to have aged more than 10 years in an instant, and he became extremely depressed. He would never have thought that it was me who had informed the bank in advance. And no one would help him. Within 3 days, Leo was taken away. The Sharon family group officially announced its bankruptcy. On the day Leo was arrested, I stood not far away and watched. How could I miss such a wonderful show? I originally thought that things would almost come to an end here, but I never expected that something even more interesting was yet to come. One day, I was watering my flowers at home. My phone suddenly rang. I picked it up and saw that it was Ryan calling. As soon as I answered the phone, Ryan's voice came from the other end. Yuki, there's something I need to share with you. Ryan's usually serious voice now had a hint of suppressed laughter. I received a notice from the team today to conduct a crackdown on prostitution at this Hong Langman hotel. Guess what? Ryan suddenly threw the question at me, which made me stunned for a moment. After thinking about it, I asked, "Did you catch someone I know?" "Yes." Ryan laughed twice. "Your ex-husband's mistress was having an affair with another man in a hotel room. We just happened to catch them." When I heard this, I couldn't help but laugh too. Ryan said that when he kicked the door in, Molly was so scared that her face turned pale, and she desperately covered herself with the quilt. A man next to her was extremely cowardly and didn't care about her at all. The two of them were taken away in handcuffs together. I didn't know how to reveal this matter to Leo, but I never expected that these two people would run into trouble on their own. Originally, having fulfilled my obsession, Molly wanted to hide this matter and specifically asked her own family to bail her out. But it was such a coincidence that Sophia and Sharon were just released today. When the two groups of people met and asked around, they immediately became angry and started fighting in the police station. Sophia was tearing at Molly's clothes and slapping her. "You bitch. How dare you cheat on my son? How dare you hit me? How dare you hit me?" Molly wasn't willing to be outdone either. Moreover, her relatives from her maiden family were here. So Sophia didn't gain any advantage at all. Even the police couldn't stop them. And they almost got arrested again right after being released. In the end, the two groups of people left in a fit of anger. Of course, I wasn't at the scene. All these things were told to me by Ryan when he came back. Now we are getting more and more familiar with each other. And we often go out to eat with Sunny together. I have to say that Ryan is indeed a good man. If I didn't regard his son as my future son-in-law, maybe. The Leo family used all their money to get Leo out. On the same day, Leo went to Molly's house. He grabbed her hair and dragged her all the way to the street. Some onlookers recorded the whole process, and they successfully became a hit on a certain short video platform. Leo slapped Molly in the face and cursed, "Bitch. I'll teach you a lesson for having an affair. How dare you have an affair? You useless woman. You can't do anything right. You deserve to wear a green hat." All of Molly's relatives from her maiden family rushed up. The scene was really spectacular. As they were fighting, Molly suddenly lost her temper. "I'm telling you, Leo. Not only did I have an affair behind your back, but the child isn't even yours." Upon hearing this, Leo stood there stunned on the spot. His eyes turned red. There's nothing more painful than realizing that the son you've been raising isn't your own. Even the members of the Leo family were extremely angry when they heard this news. It was said that Sophia was sent to the emergency room that night. This farce resulted in Leo being disgraced and Molly becoming famous all over the internet. I didn't feel the slightest bit of sympathy for them. Instead, I felt extremely gratified. They got what they deserved. After finally having a few peaceful days, there was a knock on the door. I thought it was Ryan coming back. But unexpectedly, it was Leo. As soon as we met, he knelt down in front of me with a thud, looking at me with red eyes. Yuki, I was wrong. Please forgive me. I was bewitched for a moment. Please. He knelt at my feet, crying bitterly, and I immediately hid inside the door. I tried to close the door, but he suddenly reached out and blocked it. Yuki, I know you still love me. Please. Let's remarry. I promise I won't cheat again in the future. His eyes were crazy and bloodshot, and I took a step back in fear. What if he suddenly got angry and hurt the baby in my belly? The baby is mine. Right. Yuki? For the sake of the baby. Let's make up. Okay. Leo kept crying. Seeing that I didn't respond, he stood up from the ground and stepped closer to me. I quickly stepped back, anxiously thinking of a way out. Just then, you let out a low sigh. I saw a tall and upright figure walking up behind Leo. My heart immediately calmed down. Yuki. Leo tried to drag me like a madman. Suddenly, the person behind him punched him and quickly controlled him. It was Ryan who came. Ryan looked at me worriedly. Are you okay? When I came back and saw that you didn't close the door, I came to check. I'm glad you're here. I let out a sigh of relief. You shameless woman. How dare you find a man behind my back? Leo became furious as soon as he saw Ryan. He was like a madman, struggling desperately. It seemed that at this moment, he was blaming me for what Molly did to him. He was so strong when he went crazy that Ryan almost couldn't control him. In the end, he was sent to prison with multiple charges combined, including assaulting a police officer, breaking into a private residence, and threatening someone's personal safety. It was said that when Sophia heard this news, she collapsed on the ground. She was saved after emergency treatment. Unfortunately, unfortunately, she became hemiplegic. With this stroke, the ungrateful nature of the Leo family was fully revealed. Since Leo was in prison, Sharon regarded her mother as a burden and would often beat or scold her. They would never have a good life again. As for me, of course, I would keep an eye on the stock market, make some investments, and enjoy my life as a single wealthy woman. End epilogue. 23 years later, Jian Kang and Ping'an have both grown up. Jason, just like in his previous life, has become the richest man in the world. Perhaps because of my changes, Jason is even richer in this life and in the previous one. And he is also very filial. Even Ava, who entered the entertainment industry for her dream, has successfully become a top celebrity. At this year's Oscar award ceremony, Ava successfully won the biggest achievement award and often appears on various magazines. May I ask how you managed to raise to such successful children? The reporter held a microphone and finally got an interview with me. There was hope in his eyes. I thought for a moment. Actually, there's not much to it. It's more about their own efforts. This was indeed the truth. The efforts of my two children were indeed the most important. The reporter asked me some more questions, and I answered them all. This interview was publicized in many places, and countless people took me as an example. And today, it's my daughter Ava's wedding. The person she's marrying is Sunny, the prospective son-in-law I had my eye on a long time ago. Their wedding was extremely grand, and dignitaries and celebrities from all walks of life attended. In such a scene, I couldn't hold back my tears. My daughter is finally getting married. She will also have children and become a mother, but she won't experience the things I went through. Mom. I personally gave Ava's hand to Sunny and watched him swear that he would take good care of my daughter for a lifetime. Ava turned around and hugged me. It's so nice. I've really had a good life in this life. This wedding of the century was regarded as the front page news by all the media and stayed on the Weibo trending list for a whole month. Countless people were envious. 3 days after the wedding, Ava came back to visit me. In the evening, our family had a meal. Ava secretly slipped into my room. I was helpless. Why are you here instead of staying with your husband? Mom. Ava hugged my arm and smiled happily. She whispered to me. What do you think of Ryan? He has liked you for more than 20 years. Aren't you really going to consider it? Upon hearing this, I was stunned. I've solved my daughter's marriage issue. But I'm really not ready to welcome a new family yet. Mom. Think about it. Ryan is really a nice person. Ava shook my arm and acted cocky to slide beside me. I was a bit confused and got up to go to the living room to get a glass of water. As soon as I opened the door, Ryan was standing at the door. You. I opened my mouth but didn't know what to say for a moment. Ryan's face turned red instantly. Then, let out a low sigh. He took out a bouquet of roses from behind and handed it to me. Yuki, had him fulfilled lad sigh. Will you be with me? The end.